Welcome to your weekly forecast. My name is Adina. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and in these weekly videos, I go over the astrological energies for the week ahead. And in this forecast, we will be going over the energy for January 1st to the 7th, 2024. Now, before we get into the weekly forecast, I just want to note and say thank you for being patient for all of my subscribers and followers. I did take the last month of the year to kind of regroup. I did a lot of renovating and changing things around on my end, business-wise and personally, to get ready for the new year. I took advantage of the Mercury retrograde to, develop a new scheduling routine for my business, figure out what I want to implement come the new year. I also changed my office and got a bunch of new stuff, and so there was a lot kind of going on my end, and I wanted to take that last month of the year to just bring in some new energy and switch things up a little bit and get ready for 2024. And so I am back. Thank you for being patient. And I am back with the weekly forecasts every single week. 2024 is going to be a big year. So I will be here to help guide you through all of this major energy taking place. Now, coming into the week, the first week of 2024, we have Jupiter direct, which I love. Having Jupiter direct coming into the new year is great because sometimes during a Jupiter retrograde period, we can lose our optimism. We can feel defeated or deflated, especially if you have a lot of Sagittarius energy in your birth chart or a lot of Pisces energy, or if you have Jupiter transiting a prominent place in your birth chart, you can really feel that Jupiter retrograde energy where you're losing optimism or you feel like you're losing direction in some way. And so starting the year off with Jupiter direct, I absolutely love this for forward movement and that supportive energy to start moving forward and, putting certain things in place. January, we really want to take advantage of January for making concrete plans moving forward, because once we start to reach March, April, May, the energy becomes a little bit intense, especially once we enter eclipse season. We have Mercury retrograde as well on April 1st, another Mercury retrograde. And this is a very intense time. And so we want to take advantage of January to really form some solid foundations that we want to continue throughout the year, if that makes sense. And then once we get to February, we're really going to see what this Pluto and Aquarius energy brings, because, Pluto is going to make conjunctions, or all inner planets are going to make conjunctions to Pluto in Aquarius. So February, we really want to be paying attention to, what is showing up for us, because this is really going to give you an idea of what this Pluto and Aquarius energy is going to feel like and is going to bring us individually and collectively. So now coming into the week on Monday, we have Venus and Sagittarius forming a square to Saturn. Now, this can feel interesting because Saturn rules our responsibilities, our commitments, sometimes personal boundaries. There could be, maybe something taking place on New Year's Eve where you feel like your boundaries are overstepped, or something showing up for you that you're having to address come New Year's Day on Monday. So that can feel really interesting, or there could be commitments that maybe you're wanting to negotiate or reconsider. Venus in Sagittarius being a sign of belief systems and freedom and adventure, Venus wanting to explore, Jupiter now being direct, and then Saturn coming in, putting a block, hold, or stop to something. This can feel, a little not necessarily challenging, but it's almost like you're not able to move forward with something as fast as you'd like. Now, what else is interesting about Monday is we have the moon in Virgo coming into the week, Virgo being ruled by Mercury. So when Mercury stations direct on Monday, January 1st, the moon's going to be in a Mercury ruled sign. So we are really going to feel this emotionally, not just mentally, but emotionally, having that moon in Virgo, where maybe we're wanting something to be a certain way, we're wanting to move forward with something, and it's just not happening exactly how we want. And so we do want to be mindful of that. Now, on January 1st, also on Monday, having Mercury station direct at 22 degrees of Sagittarius, having Mars also still in Sagittarius, this is something that we've been kind of navigating the past month, is this Mercury Mars energy of, Mercury and Mars can bring conflict, confrontation, and also depending on your relationship with Mars energy, your relationship with Mars, sometimes there could be a lot of negative self-talk or a lot of stuff that you're having to move through internally when it has to do with your thoughts, the way you think, your mind. And so if this is something you've been moving through while Mercury's been retrograde the last few weeks, having Mercury station direct, there's something may click here. When Mercury stations, this is where now whatever we've been kind of rethinking and reevaluating and reconsidering and going, kind of moving through the last few weeks, things start to piece together now. Things start to make sense. Now we're able to move forward with something. Now, also on Monday evening, late Monday, and to be honest, my time, it's 11:11 p.m., which I find quite interesting. The moon is going to form a trine to Uranus. So this can bring in a lot of unstable emotions, but it's a trine. I mean, there could be some sort of an awakening energy here. I love Uranus for awakening or, really powerful insight. And so this, and it's at 11:11 p.m. Now I'm in Ontario, Canada, so this is Eastern Standard Time. But at 11:11 p.m., we're going to have the moon form a trine to Uranus, which I find very interesting. If you're, meditating at this time or you're in this time zone, there can be something that just clicks if you're meditating or, really kind of going within, trying to figure something out. This can be very powerful. I really, really like this. It's a trine, so I could have some very powerful insight Monday night. Now, another thing that I do want to mention is that throughout the week, having Mercury station direct at 22 degrees of Sagittarius, we have Neptune at 25 degrees of Pisces. So there is this square still between Mercury and Neptune, which is where we have to watch for this self-undoing and self-sabotaging. We're making sure we have all the information before we're moving forward, making sure we're not over idealizing something, and just making sure that things are clear and we have all the information that we need before we make any decisions. So I did just want to mention that, because as we kind of move through the week, or even into the next week, the following week, that Mercury square to Neptune is going to become a little bit more intense. So keep that in mind. Now, once we get to Tuesday, this is a really big emotional day because the moon, there's a lot of moon transits on Tuesday. We have the moon at 25 degrees of Virgo once we come into Tuesday, opposing Neptune, but then also approaching and eventually will square Mars. So, and the moon even squaring Mercury, because Mercury and Mars are in Sagittarius. Mercury is at 22 degrees of Sagittarius and Mars is at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. And so coming into Tuesday, we've got that moon squaring Mercury and Mars, which even forming like a T-square to Neptune. So Tuesday can be a little bit challenging emotionally. This is where we can be making decisions on something that we don't have all the answers to again. And this is something we've been navigating over the last month or so. There's a lot of Neptune energy, especially with Mercury, because of the Mercury retrograde and Mercury squaring Neptune. And there's going to be another square. And there's going to be another Mercury-Mars conjunction exact. And so we do want to be watching for making decisions based on, not having all the information or not knowing exactly all the pieces to the puzzle, if that makes sense. And nobody has all the answers at this point. Nobody knows, right? Like, this is an energy we're all navigating. And so this is a time to, I don't even want to say just sit with the energy, because we have a lot of forward movement, but we do just want to make sure that we have that self-awareness, that we're paying attention to our thoughts, that we're not getting in our own way when it comes to decision making, or even when it comes to our emotions and how we're processing emotions, making sure we're having that self-awareness and we're not allowing certain self-undoing or self-sabotaging habits, tendencies, or behaviors to get in the way. And I think that's the most important message with this. Now, once we get to Wednesday, we have the moon in Libra being ruled by Venus being in Sagittarius, and Jupiter now being direct. This is really great for maybe wanting to connect within relationships, or even when it has to do with like, I almost feel too intuitively like there's a new direction taken here, based on, you know, belief systems and something new, a new path, a new direction within a relationship. And could be for anyone. I'm going to trust that, you know, this message is for someone that's out there. But there's at this time on Wednesday, you know, having the moon in Libra, you know, being ruled by Venus, and Venus is in conjunction to Jupiter. There could be like something here where you're wanting to take a new direction, a new path, changing your belief systems in some way. It's like this Jupiter direct energy has brought in some optimism, where now it's like, okay, I know this year I want to take this new direction. And this could even be, you know, maybe realizing that there are certain relationships in your life or people in your life that are not going to follow that direction with you. So that's really interesting that just kind of came to me intuitively. So of course, always trust what resonates with you, leave the rest behind. But I'm going to trust that somebody needs to hear that, because on Wednesday, there could be something taking place where you have a better understanding of, you know, something around relationships and who is no longer in alignment, if that makes sense. And then on January 4th, on Thursday, we have Mars entering Capricorn. Now, Mars is exalted in Capricorn, so this is a very strong Mars energy. Mars ruling our motivation, our willpower, our drive. Mars can also sever and separate. And so you want to know where you have Capricorn in your birth chart, because this is going to show you where this Mars energy is transiting, so you can prepare. If you have a day chart, Mars is not your best friend. Mars is not my best friend. So Mars, maybe I'll make a video of my Mars transits, because they're quite fascinating and literal. But Mars being in Capricorn, just generally speaking, Capricorn ruling government, authority, you know, work and business and dedication, getting things done. This is really strong energy for, you know, forward movement and kind of moving forward with New Year's resolutions, whatever plans. This is actually a perfect time to set plans. Like Capricorn is the energy of planning things out, setting plans and following through with them. And so having Mars in Capricorn can be really beautiful for having that motivation, that drive, and really following through, you know, with the plans that you're kind of setting for yourself for the new year. And then on Friday, we have the moon entering Scorpio and eventually going to form a trine to Saturn. And so this can be really great for moving forward with something, you know, anything that really has to do with commitments, responsibilities. And having the moon in Scorpio is like bringing in this ability to really be able to pay attention and focus on something specific. If, you know, there's something that you're working on or something that you're trying to figure out or something that you're trying to move forward with, this energy is really supportive for moving forward with that and figuring something out. You know, whenever we have planets in Scorpio, it really brings this ability to become, I mean, we have to, of course, watch for obsessions and compulsions, but it gives us the ability to become laser focused on something and, you know, research or, you know what I mean? And with this trine to Saturn, it's like really being able to follow through with certain commitments and responsibilities that you've set for yourself. And then later on Friday, we will have the sun reach 15 degrees of Capricorn and form a square to Chiron at 15 degrees of Aries. And this is where something can come up that Chiron rules our vulnerabilities or wounds or past traumas. And so there might be something showing up later on Friday that can really have to do with your ego, the sun representing ego, and trying to move forward with something, but something coming up that can be a block, or even subconsciously because it's Chiron, where something is triggering something from the past, like an old hurt or trauma that you're having to kind of navigate later on Friday evening coming into the weekend. Now, also keep in mind that at this point, Mercury has reached 23 degrees of Sagittarius, so moving closer to that square to Neptune. And so, like I mentioned at the beginning of the forecast, as we reach the end of the week and into next week, that square between Mercury and Neptune becomes closer. So we want to make sure that we have all the facts, we have all the information before we move forward with anything, because that energy is going to become a lot more intense. And also, too, making sure that you're being mindful of your thoughts and any self-undoing or self-sabotaging behaviors, because that is what Neptune can do. Neptune can really make things confusing and cloudy, and especially around your mind. Mercury ruling our mind, our thoughts, how we're thinking, our thought processing, our communication. So as we approach the end of the week, that energy becomes more intense. So we really want to be mindful of that. On Saturday, there's not too much going on other than the moon opposing Uranus, which can bring a lot of anxiousness, a lot of instability, especially emotionally. With the moon still being in Scorpio, it could be very intense, causing a lot of anxiety. And so maybe something that was triggered on Friday with that Sun square to Chiron, whatever vulnerability or wound came up for you, or whatever was triggered for you, can be creating a lot of anxiety. So be mindful of that as well. And then on Sunday, we will have the moon form a trine to Neptune before the moon enters Sagittarius. So the moon trine Neptune can be very beautiful for spirituality, intuition, romance, creativity. But because of that square, and at this point having Mercury at 24 degrees, so that square to Neptune is becoming a lot more intense. We want to make sure that we're not making decisions just based on how we're feeling. Or it could be making decisions based on how you're feeling, not necessarily your thoughts, like getting out of your head and not allowing your thoughts to get in the way of something coming in for you. That makes more sense, because the Mercury square to Neptune can really have your thoughts and your mind be creating scenarios, and that could be self-sabotaging or getting in your own ways or worries, where the moon is forming a trine to Neptune. So your emotions are more on par with what is in alignment, not necessarily your thoughts. And then coming into the week, next week, like on January 8th, we're going to have that Mercury square to Neptune come exact. And so whatever is building up for you the first week of January, something can come to a head with that Mercury square to Neptune. And on the same day, having Mars sextile Saturn, there can be, we want to pay attention, because when Mars enters Capricorn on the 4th, there's going to be something kind of building up to that sextile to Saturn. But sextiles are opportunities, and Saturn representing your commitments, your responsibilities, Mars representing your motivation, your willpower, and taking action with something. There might be something presented on Thursday and Friday of this week that you finally kind of form a decision or come to a final decision on January 8th on Monday. And so next week we'll have the Sun form a trine to Uranus. We will have Venus trine Chiron. So it's almost like too, even on Friday, that Sun square to Chiron, whatever's triggered for you on Friday, there could be something really beautiful and supportive coming in on January 10th with that Venus trine to Chiron. And then we have our new moon in Capricorn, but I will be here next Sunday with another weekly forecast to go over all of that energy. So thank you so much for joining me. This year is going to be a really big year astrologically. And I will be here to guide you through all of the crazy energy. Now, keep in mind that that Sun-Pluto conjunction, if you watch my collective forecast for 2024, I talked about, right in January 19th and 20th, we have the Sun-Pluto conjunction at 29 degrees, 59 minutes. And then the Sun and Pluto are going to enter Aquarius pretty much together. The Sun is going to enter Aquarius, and then Pluto is going to enter Aquarius. And this is where we really want to be paying attention collectively and individually, what is showing up for you. These are the same degree points as the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction back in December of 2020. So keep that in mind. Think back to that time period. What were you moving through? What were you navigating? There could be something really highlighted here or something coming to the surface around whatever you were moving through back then. And so thank you so much for joining me, and I will connect with you all in the next one.